growing up in the industry. I heard a gentleman by the name of Tim Foley. How many of y'all remember Tim Foley? He was a cornerback for the Miami Dolphins the year they won the Super Bowl, and he got totally humiliated one night on Monday Night Football. And nonetheless, they were flying back home from that game, and Tim was a cornerback, and he got with Coach Shula, and he says, "What am I doing wrong?" He said, "That guy tore me up tonight." He said, "I was totally annihilated." And Coach Shula, in his wisdom, took him back to the fundamentals. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm going to kick it off with, by the way, if you didn't hear Shane Hendricks' update today, our owner on YouTube, he talked about a song that's been one of the favorites of mine that Sandy and I have been introduced a time or two in the past on stage. It's a Tim McGraw song, but it speaks volumes to me every time I hear it. And that's simply, "How Bad Do You Want It?" I can hear that song in my head ever since Shane reminded me of it this afternoon when I listened to his updates. So that's really what it boils down to. In the previous training that I did a couple of weeks ago, we talked about two of the most important fundamentals that there are. Number one is defining your dream. You've got to define that. You've got to know what it is. And I wanted to do a little participation with the audience tonight, but most of you got your cameras turned off, and that's okay. But let me ask you anyway, if you were on during my last training, did you in fact write down 5 or 6 different things that you really want to accomplish in the next few weeks, months, or years? Because if you haven't done that, really tonight's a waste of time. I'm just being upfront and honest with you. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some things that you must do in order to succeed. If you're not where you want to be and you're still doubting these fundamentals, you're not going to be where you want to be anyway in the next year or next 10 years. You finally get to a point, I know I did, where I said, all right, I'm going to do exactly what they are teaching me to do. And I got to tell you, one of them was defining that dream. And that took me a long time. Because when I was raised up back in the early 80s in this industry, it was all material things that they were dreaming about. You know what I mean? The nice homes, the nice cars, the travel, the exotic vacations, nice yachts and things. And those are all great, but that wasn't what flipped my trigger. And I talked about that with you on the last training, and we're living that dream today. Okay. The second thing I talked about with you was making some commitments. There are going to have to be some daily, weekly, monthly commitments made. And one of the biggest is personal growth, working on you. And we talked about that. So go back to that training and listen to those fundamentals. But I'm going to start out tonight with the idea of multiplication versus addition. And I'm going to use some crazy simple examples that just have stuck with me. I know some of you have heard these, but have you ever heard the analogy of a barrel full of oysters, unshucked oysters? Now, if you live in the South, you've shucked an oyster or two. Realizing that in that barrel, there might be 150, there might be, I don't know how many are in a big drum of oysters like that, but knowing that in there somewhere there's 10 oysters with pearls in them. How fast would you go through that barrel of oysters to find those pearls, if that was your goal? Another simple analogy is a bag full of marbles. And in there, there's 10 red ones. The pearls meaning they're the ones you're looking for. The red ones meaning they're the ones you're looking for. How many, and you can't see them. You don't know who they are, But how fast would you go through that bag full of marbles to find those 10 red ones? But here's the problem. Most of you don't have a barrel or a bag, meaning you don't even have a written list of people that you want to present bump to. You don't even have the raw resources to start with. And I know that's fundamental, but there again, Vince Lombardi said, gentlemen, this is a football. That's pretty fundamental to the sport of football. Okay, so do you, in fact, have a written list? Because if you don't, you're not in business. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to tell you straight up, because number one, I appreciate that when people talk to me that way. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't fluff it up. Just tell me what I got to do. I'm just that literal. Just give me the fundamentals and I'll go do them. That's all I've done for 38 years in this industry, is done the fundamentals over and over again. I'll guarantee you, I have got a written list for bump. Note, in fact, I should have brought it. I've got my notepad. I just don't have my written list. And I've got people checked off of it. And I'm racing through it, trying to find some great ones. And we already have. I mean, my goodness, when you look at some of the folks on this screen, like the Dubois and the Baldwins and others, my goodness, we got some great leaders already here. But have you written your list of 100 or more? Have you? And then when you do that written list, don't hop, skip, and jump around on it. Go straight down through it, from the first one you list to the second one to the third one, and get them introduced to this company. Now, here's what I want you to realize, and I started out talking about multiplication versus addition. We can go out here, folks, and we can present this opportunity to business owners, to anyone who carries a business card. Obviously, they need what we have. But and when you make that sale to that individual, you are adding to your income, okay? You're adding to the size of your group. That's addition. When you go and talk to a networker, or any person of influence for that matter, it could be like a broker at a real estate office. It could be the GM or the owner of an automobile sales organization or company. When you talk to a networker, you're talking to someone that has an established network, and every one of those examples, you would multiply your efforts, not just adding onesie twosies, but you could add, like my son. Yeah, he's a small business owner. When I put him on the phone with Shane a few days back, he's got 2 or 3, or now 4, I think, different HVAC company locations from Tennessee to mostly in Texas. And he has multiple opportunities to use these cards. So as he gets started, he'll have more than 4 or 5, I promise you that. He'll have a ton of different cards. You take it to a network marketer. Let's just use my buddy Thomas as an example. Thomas has got a big organization in bump. Why? Because I didn't look for someone to make a sale. I looked for an influencer, someone who could then take it to hundreds and even thousands of people. So my question is are your dreams big enough that you want to learn how to multiply your efforts versus using addition? That's the first thing, okay? And that's a vitally important one. So as you're running that list, if you want to do some qualification, simply ask yourself, are they an influencer? Are they a person that has lots of contacts? And you could label them like I have, from networkers to real estate brokers to insurance agency owners, whatever the case may be. But there isn't a major company out there that doesn't want this kind of technology. And let me tell you why. This is the quote for today. I was talking to Shane earlier, and I said, I said, having a paper business card is like using a flip phone in today's business world. I mean, think about it. When you see somebody whip out a flip phone, you think, my God, they're backwards. At least I've done that. And I was one of the last to get a smartphone, but I'd hate to be without one today because of what they're capable of doing. Folks, that's what we've got our hands on. We've got a tool here that every business owner, every network marketer, everybody needs to know about. So how big is your list, and are you prejudging, or better yet, are you taking those people that are people of influence and not calling them at all? You keep moving around them on the list. They may be number 5 on the list, and you talk to number 1, 2, 3, and 4, but then you skip to 6. Let me tell you how. I'll make a deal with you. I'll do this for you. You make a list of everybody that you want, and all the ones that you consider you're afraid to call. Make it a separate list and mail it to me. I'll call them. I don't even know them, and I'll call them, and I'll get richer, and you'll stay setting. Boy, that's harsh. Well, dadgummit, get the point. Get to those influencers. That's what you got to do. And so with that, I'm enough on that. I promise I'll move on. So let's talk about getting someone started. When it comes time to get someone started, when are they the most excited? It's when they start. It's when they get the vision of what this can be for them. Now, if you're only selling the product and not the opportunity, you're making it tough on yourself. This is a huge opportunity. So when I find someone who wants to be an affiliate, I've got one thing in mind, and that's to book a meeting. I want to get to their captains and lieutenants. I want to get to those people that are their best buddies. I want to get to those influencers that they're afraid to call. I'll call them with them. I haven't got a problem if somebody said, I'd really like to present this to President Donald Trump. I'd be on the phone. I'd talk to President Trump in a heartbeat about this. You know, I don't care who they are. But the point is, you got to get into action. So many people, they want to wait. Well, when I get my card in, and when I get it all designed, and then I'm going to go tell somebody about it. Bull hockey. Start now. Start right now. I challenge you to call your upline and say, hey, you know what? I've been procrastinating, but I'm ready. I'm pulling the stops out. My dreams are that important, and I'm going to start now. When can I get you to help me with my first meeting? And book it. And then book up a second meeting. I always go for 2. Here's why. When I'm calling Thomas up and I say, hey, Thomas, you know, yada, yada, yada about what I'm introducing him to, I'm going to let him know that I've got Tuesday night at 8 or Thursday night at 8:30 or whatever. I'm going to give him 2 options. That way, I'm going to hit him with one of them. Now, if he's really super busy and just isn't ready to move as fast as I want to move, then we're going to compare calendars. But I'm going to give him 2 options right off the bat. So when I'm starting someone, I want to give them 2 dates also. I want to say, okay, Thomas, in fact, I personally sponsored Thomas. I want to give you this date and this date when I can do your first meeting for you. Okay? Now, when he and I started, we were in launch and Ron was doing all the meetings. So all I had to do is plug him into Ron, and which does a great presentation. But we're past that now, folks. And Ron, if you're waiting on someone else to do your meetings, you're going to grow slow. Because here's what happens. You get what I call meeting mentality, to where you're waiting on the meeting once a week, maybe twice, whatever the case may be, to roll around, and then you're going to introduce them a day or 2 ahead of time and try to get somebody on the meeting. And because you procrastinated to the day or 2 before, now they're busy. Are you getting the picture here? and nothing gets accomplished. Now let's turn that around. Let's book the meeting with you, and let's book it right away. And now the pressure's on you to perform, to turn the people out to your first online presentation, which, by the way, gang, I came from old school. I used to drive hours to do a meeting. And now I dink around all day and do a presentation at night via Zoom. How simple is this? This is a cakewalk compared to how I was raised in the industry. But anyway, so when you book that meeting with someone, one of your new personals, or it could be in depth. I mean, that's a whole nother topic we can talk about in the future. But I'm just talking about getting somebody started fast. You got the written list, then you book a couple of meetings. Then you help them invite. Well, I'm going to help you. Let's do some three-way calls. Let's get some interest generated. I know you're scared. I know you don't know what to say, but I do. So all you got to do is call your buddy up with me or your sponsor, whomever that is, on the phone and say, hey, Tom, I've got my buddy Ron on the phone. I just got introduced to this. I don't know anything about it except it looks good to me. You deserve to hear about this. If that's all you can get out, that's enough. That'll work, okay? But now, the point of all of this is this. Instead of waiting for the meeting that everybody else is waiting for, and everybody else is counting on the other person to make the numbers look good and have guests on, now it's your Zoom. It's your guests. And folks, I don't care if there's 1 or 100. I don't care. I'll present. In fact, I've done Zooms where there was just 0, me and my new guy, because nobody showed. You know what? I'd rather do a Zoom with nobody on it than to drive 5 hours and do one with nobody there. Okay, but obviously you want to get people turned out. So always get a hold of like 8 or 10 more than or let me rephrase that. Out of every 10, you're going to get 2 or 3 that show. Now, if you're really good, you'll get 50%. If you're really, really good, maybe like a boss, you can say, hey, I've came across this, you need to see it. They're all going to show up. But let's get as many on. And then for the ones that can't show for the first one, you've got the alternate date to get them on the second one. And then you have that second date so that all the people that were on the first one can bring people to the second one. And then tie it in every Thursday night to the corporate presentation. Are you getting the picture? You always build to something bigger. If you start someone with a one-on-one, something bigger is an in-home, an online Zoom. I call them in-home still today. And if they were on an in-home like we're talking about, where it's just one associate inviting their guests, the next biggest thing is the corporate presentation, where there's going to be 100 or more. All right. So that's the big picture. Now here's what you got to realize. You've got 2 weeks. 2. You don't have 3. You've got 2 weeks to get someone started. Because after a couple of weeks, if you don't get something started, their enthusiasm really falls off. In fact, after 4 or 5 days, it can fall off dramatically. That's why you want to strike while the iron's hot. Get those meetings booked. Help them turn out. I don't care if it's 1 or 2, but get them started. When you get them started fast, now they have something to lose. You can't quit now. You sponsored Thomas. You sponsored Scotty. I can't quit. You get the picture? Because I've got a team. Now, this is worth its weight in gold, I got to tell you. It's these fundamentals that make a huge, huge difference. So you've got 2 whole weeks And you may say, I don't buy that. Well, think about some things you've done in the past. Think about your own enthusiasm. Is it as much as it was when you got started, however many days or weeks ago that was? Capitalize on it. That's all you've got to do. And I get riled up. I need to check my time. All right, we're good. I got a couple more minutes. And I'm really basically, that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, was to get that written list going, get those meetings booked, think multiplication versus addition, and get to those influencers, get that first meeting booked, and rock and roll hoochie coo. That's all there is to this, because the only thing left is repeat the process. That's it. Because then you grab somebody at that first meeting and then you book a meeting with them. Well, wait a minute, that's Thomas's personally sponsored. That don't make any difference. Thomas is too new. Now, Thomas obviously has got lots of years of experience and success. So Thomas, I don't have to do anything for Thomas except just go, yay, boy, sick 'em. But when you're dealing with people that have never built or have never had success in the industry, you want to drive that depth. And maybe the next time I'm on, we'll talk about driving depth, because that is absolutely critical to your success. The only person that you can count on to do that is you. It's you, okay? So I want to end with a story just to kind of tie this all together. And this happened to me years ago, back in my game warden days, back up in Missouri. And I was a young game warden, and I was in a little bitty town in central Missouri, a little town called Boonville. And there was this notorious little kid. His name was Johnny. And we were all at the coffee shop, all of us, game warden and sheriffs, deputies, and so forth, one morning, pretty early. We're all sitting there having coffee, and little Johnny goes by the window, and we're all sitting there. I mean, every one of us, guns, badges, you know, the whole shebang. And Johnny goes by with his little radio flyer wagon full of fish. He had them tied on, you know, netted down, and it was full of fish. And it was every kind of fish you could think of. And I'm thinking, where did that little rascal get those? And, you know, this was a 10-year-old kid. And so I went outside and I said, Johnny, whoa, hey, son, stop, hold up. I need to talk to you. I said, where did you get those fish? He said, oh, Mr. Kelm down at the community lake. Now, wait a minute. Johnny, that lake's been fished out for years. There ain't no fish in that lake. He said, oh, yes, sir, Mr. Kelm, there sure are. And I said, no, come on, Johnny, tell me the truth. And, you know, he was one of those little rascals, one of those little ornery boys. And finally he said, Mr. Kelm, let me tell you what, you show up tomorrow morning at 6:30 in the morning, sharp, and I'll take you fishing. Meet me at the boat dock. And I said, Johnny, my son, you're on. Next morning, I was there. Johnny was already there. He had his boat in the water, his little oars, and he had a little tackle box, and he was ready to go. So I jumped in the boat with him, and we shove off, and he starts rowing out to the where the trees are, you know, the dead trees are sticking up out of the water. We call them stick-ups for those of you that don't fish. And all of a sudden, he starts fiddling around in his tackle box. I'm thinking, what's this little knucklehead doing? And all of a sudden, he pulls out this stick of dynamite. And I went, oh, no way. No, Johnny, you can't be doing this to me. And he lit that sucker, and he had it tied to a rock. And he threw it over the side, and boom! It exploded, and fish started floating. And I said, oh, Johnny, son, you're only 10. I don't know what they're going to do with you. They can't put you in the pen. What are we going to do? He said, this is illegal. You can't use dynamite. He said, oh, Mr. Kelm, it'll be all right. I said, no, Johnny, son, you don't get it. This is an illegal method. You're a youth, son. You can't be doing this. And after he was just dipping up fish. And pretty soon, and I'm just beside myself. And pretty soon I look at him and he's fiddling around in that tackle box again. And he brings out another stick of dynamite tied to a rock. He lights it. And I said, Johnny, you can't do that. And he threw it to me. And he said, are you going to talk or fish? And I said, I went fishing. But here's the moral of the story. I told you that to tell you this. You can talk about doing this. You can be a poser. You can act like you're going to do it. But what it really boils down to, are you going to talk or fish? See you next time.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. Again, oh, God. Every time you get a leader, like a Ken or a Thomas, or they always talk the same language. They always talk the basic, simple stuff. That's all that they don't let things get in the way. And Ken, I appreciate you doing that. That's picked up a new way of fishing, though. That's a good thing. So, guys, listen. I'll have this on YouTube here shortly in just a little bit if you want to watch it again or send your teammates to it that didn't watch it. Ken, I thank you so much, and tell Sandy we love her and we thank her as well. And just happy that we have people from all calibers on this team that we call the Bump Card. And don't forget, on Thursday night, we'll be doing our presentations again. And Ken and Sandy, glad you're here. Hey, with that being said, folks, congratulations on your hanging out with us on Monday night. We'll see you on Thursday. God bless everybody. We will see you again.